My name is Rusty Paul. I'm Les Paul's son.
Hi, I'm Michelle Moog-Koussa. I'm the Executive Director of the Bob Moog Foundation, and you are watching the Musician Network. Hi, I'm Michelle Moog-Koussa. I am the Executive Director of the Bob Moog Foundation, and I am also Bob Moog's third daughter.
My name is Rusty Paul, Les Paul's son.
I want to know a little bit more about what it was like growing up with your dad.
It was very interesting. It's hard in a way because of being involved all the time, as you were with your dad and everything. It's hard to pull yourself away from something you're involved with 24/7. And I had many people come and ask me and try to define and break up the part of being here and somebody being there separated. And I can't separate it. Because when I was a young kid, I was playing in the backyard with Bing Crosby's kids, Gary and Bobby and all. So I'm in it. So how can I say something outside the loop when I wasn't there? I was in it all the time. But I remember the studio out here in LA. I could just about tell you how it was put together right now. You just got that vision back there. And I'm sure you have visions too with your dad.
I have some. I have a feeling that you were intertwined with your father's work a lot more than I was. My father really held it at arm's length, and I really
did.
Yeah,
Oh,
I didn't know that much about his work at all until he died.
Oh boy, had to learn quick, huh?
Have had to learn quick, and it's still learning, and probably will always be learning.
Well, the minute you can't learn and you can't advance yourself, then you got to stop.
Yeah.
But as long as you can expand yourself and you can get next step, it works every time. It's a guiding stone for you.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
So Les had a car accident. I think maybe not everyone out there knows. He had a car accident and broke
that happened in 1948. And they were traveling, and Dad didn't feel very good, and he was driving and everything, and they get some ice in Oklahoma on Route 66, and they went through 100 feet into a cornfield, and Dad broke almost every bone in his body, his arm, his neck, his collarbone, his 6 ribs. He was a mess. I mean, they didn't expect him to live. He got in the hospital, come down with double pneumonia. Then he saw the light, and he said, "Nah, I ain't ready for this. No way. I want to pull out of it." But he did see the light, and he just said, "Boy, that's too close for me." And then the doctors, he was half under sedation, and the doctor said to him, he said, "Well," one of them said, "You got to take the arm off." He said, No, you got to understand, this is an icon, and you can't lose his arm because he's got to play the guitar." So Dad was partially awake. So he told the doctors, he says, "Stop arguing about this thing, get on with it." He says, "You could save the arm." The doctor said, "Yes, we could save it." So he says, "Where do you want it placed?" He says, "Take the pick hand and stick it by my navel. That's where my guitar is going to be, my strings." He says, "Fix my arm that way, and I'll elevate it that way." So right now he couldn't stretch his arm out like this. He had 6 screws in there and went through a whole deal with that. It took him 2 years in hospital, and they didn't think he was going to make it. But finally he pulled out of it, and he ended up having his arm in a brace with a pole here. So he had to take the guitar and make a rack. So the rack held the clunker guitar so that he could pick this way and play this way. So it laid down kind of flat. And he also had the synthesizer in mind to do it that way, because he thought that he was going to lose the arm.
So what was his goal with this synthesizer for the guitar?
Well, the goal at the time was to replace the arm. If they were going to take the arm off, he only had one hand to play with. So that had to be where it was a touch system on the fingerboard, so that he could actually play the guitar with one hand, because he wouldn't have this hand.
Right.
But they finally figured out that he didn't need to have the arm removed, that the one doctor could fix it. Then he says, "Okay, I'll put that in the wall and deal with it later." And that's where that came from. It was was only because of the situation that eliminated his arm. He didn't want to stop playing.
Right, of course.
Then your dad came along and made a big deal out of it.
Yes.
It's still a big deal out of it.
Well, you know, it grew on its own. That was, my dad invented his Moog synthesizer in 1964, but he was really inspired by a musician who came to him with an idea to make an instrument that would make new sounds. And
oscillators.
Yeah, well, they worked together and formulated the oscillators and the filters and the envelopes and the modulation, and it just grew from there. And of course, there were other people working on synthesizers at the same time and subsequent years as well. But my father rarely talked about his work at home. So
different.
Yeah, it wasn't until he passed away and all of a sudden kind of that wall that was there came crashing down, and I learned all about Bob Moog, so I've really only known Bob Moog for about 6 years.
Wow.
And I'm sure you get the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a really incredible place for me when people talk about how much Bob Moog means to them.
Yes.
He's meant to their work, he's meant to their lives. I'm sure you get that tenfold
all the time
about Les. And what, I don't know if you know, but Les and Bob did work together on a project under Norlin when Gibson was when Gibson was under Norlin in the mid-70s. Bob was actually making a guitar amp, and he and your dad worked together. We've got these beautiful photos of them announcing the lab amp. You know, I think my dad admired your dad so much.
Well, they both admired each other a lot.
Yeah.
They're both talented guys and geniuses in their own right.
They're birds of a feather. And, and I know that my father wasn't particularly happy with the corporate scene that he had to grow into or under in the mid-70s. I don't think Les was particularly happy either. So they had that in common, you know, these two pioneers who were under bigger organizations.
Well, Dad had one, I told you about that. He had one of the original brown case patchable oscillator Moogs that they come out with.
That's right.
That was in the beginning, and then you sit there with patch cords and you tune your oscillators.
Right, the modulars.
Yeah. But he saw it, and I could have kicked him for it. I said, "Why did you sell that one?" I said, "That I think was the first one out there," and that started this whole thing, you know.
Yeah. Sounds like he had an early one.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Definitely. But it's sure a pleasure, and I want to keep close contact with you if I can.
But of course.
And you know, they got to keep their legacies going because there's nobody else will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think their spirits inspired so many people. That's definitely what's behind our foundation is continuing to impact people the way that they did. Yeah.
But there's so many things that come up with our dads that are in their heads, and they are the only ones that really know.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part.
I know, because so many times, even when I walk around NAMM, I think, God, I wonder what Dad would think. I wonder what Dad would think. God, if I just ask him, like, I could just have him for an hour and ask him about 15 questions. So
that's the problem I have. I got a big plate with a bunch of stuff on it, and he says, now you got to figure out how to do it, because I'm not here to tell you.
Right.
You know, so it makes it difficult. And he used to fight for a sound on the guitar all the time. And I'm sure that Bob did the same thing with the synthesizer.
Yeah.
And he would specifically go after a certain sound. And he'd work on it, we'd wind the coils and split them in. I'd set the guitar up for him and everything, give it to him, and he says, not quite there. So I says, well, how do I get it where you want it? Because you're the only one that's going to know, because it's up here. You know what you want to hear. I don't know what you want to hear. I'm guessing at what you want to hear because I've been around you long enough that I know where you're going, but I don't hear the complete pie. He always says, I never got the complete pie. Even till he died. He says, I didn't get the whole pie. I only got maybe 3/4 of it. I'm still missing some. And he says, the way the guitar is designed and the way it's built with magnetic pickups and everything else, he says, I don't think we're going to get any better than what we got. But he says, I'm not going to stop trying. And that's the way your dad was too, the same thing.
Yep.
He said, no way, it can be done. But now they're getting into all this digital stuff and everything. That's the whole nother world.
Yeah.
Whole nother world.
Yeah, I wonder what my dad would say about
I don't know.
Just the
My dad either. I don't know what they would say today.
Right.
Because sometimes the technology, you go to batteries, they say, get rid of that. I don't want that. But, you know, digital stuff and put a whole bunch of stuff on a guitar or something like that and have it built in the guitar. He says, I don't know. What happened to the plain, natural, good sounding guitar? Why do they have to put all the garbage in there? You know, they're trying to make it where everything is one box, you take it out, you know, like you do with these synthesizers.
Yeah.
You can do everything on the one box. But there's got to be complications having all that garbage on one guitar.
Right. There are compromises.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I know with the foundation, part of what we do is go into the schools, so.
We're doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
When I get back to New York, I got a meeting with Rock of Ages. So I don't know what they want to talk about, but we'll find out.
You will. Keep me updated.
Just trying to keep things going, but it's fantastic how well it's lasted, how long it's lasted, and it's still up there on the top. And it's from your dad.
Yeah, somehow he managed to do it right the first time.
Well, that's the way you got to do it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Dad tried to do it with a clunker and the log when he first started. He did the headless guitar too. The first one was his in 1941. When he built the log, he built the headless aluminum guitar. And he played it with the Anderson system. And the amazing thing, when he went out and he turned the lights on, aluminum guitar, it started to expand and contract. So it changed tune. So he says, every time I go out on the stage and the lights go on, I'm out of tune. And he said, I can't figure this out. You know, so finally he figured it out that it was the heat that was doing it.
Right.
He had the first headless guitar.
You know, he was amazing. I only talked to him a couple times, but he's just an amazing guy.
Well,
of course, you carry that forward too.
These guys they call geniuses, man, they're way out there, way ahead of all of us. I mean, they were thinking of things 10, 15 years ahead of everybody.
Yep.
That's where you got to be, I guess. The funny part about what goes on today, it bothers me a lot, is that the digital part of it, they don't want to know the analog at all. Anything that has any wheels that turns or anything, kids don't want to know about it. It's all got to be digital. If it moves, forget about it. Throw it in the ash can.
Well, that's what.
But it's a shame because that's where this all come from.
Yeah, yeah.
It was all based off of analog.
Yep.
And it's still based off of analog in a lot of cases. Analog still got the sound and the warmth. And then you look at digital and they say, well, that's a very sharp crystal sound. That's not a warm sound. So they want to take their digital and make an acetate out of it. And they're going backwards again. But this is the way it is. I mean, thank God there's still a little bit of analog left to them to notice. Because now they say, well, they got to know more about it. You can cut something on a nail. And if the music is right, and it's the right song, and there's a groove in it, it's sold. You didn't have to have pure, clean, no hiss, no hums. Right. We're getting so orientated to the hums and hisses and all that stuff that we don't hear, that we say, okay, now we got that, but the music doesn't sound right. It sounds hard.
You're right. The digital is dominant.
And I'm not against digital, but it is just not the same as the analog sound.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it.
Yep.
It's a big problem of interaction with digital, of buying Pro Tools, to buy Tascam, to buy this and put them together. They don't want to go together. Cakewalk, any one of those, they all don't want to go in the same pot together. And that's a problem. Before in the analog, you could take anything you want. Tape machine, take a microphone, preamps, anything you want. They'll all go together. It doesn't happen that way now. Now you got to get all these external units that got to go to patch it in to, you know, make it all work. And I don't see that. I mean, they say, why did they do that? They could make it so easy. You buy this and you could buy Sony and put it together and it works. meant a lot to him. He enjoyed that just to be with his friends first. Music was second. But it meant so much to him to have this work. And he was very into the whole industry. But he knew that they were going all kinds of ways trying to find the round wheel. And it's hard to find a round wheel.
It's an honor for me to be carrying on his legacy, especially, you know, not only because of the impact that he made in the industry very early on and throughout his career, but because he did stick with it for so long, in ups and downs. I mean, that is what I did experience, is he did have ups and downs, but he was persistent, he was dedicated, and he was completely passionate about putting innovative tools in the hands of musicians. And you know, I have the greatest admiration for his dedication. And every time I come to someplace like NAMM, that is manifested in all the people who come up to me and tell me about the huge impact that his instruments, or the music from his instruments, have made on their lives. So it's incredibly gratifying for me, and I feel like we're doing very important work, even addressing things that Rusty was just talking about with, you know, making sure kids understand, you know, the base of analog synthesis and to better understand the world when they're older and become more creative thinkers. The mission of the Bob Moog Foundation is to ignite the innovative and creative spirit through the intersection of music, science, history, and innovation. And we do that two ways. One is through Dr. Bob's Sound School, where we teach the science of sound through the magic of music. We essentially get these incredible electronic musical instruments, Moog instruments and other instruments in front of the kids so that they can explore these new sonic possibilities for themselves and kind of open their minds up to new ways of doing things, new ways of understanding things. And it's in an effort not just to maybe create future musicians or future engineers, but to create and encourage creative thinking. Because really, with the world as complex as it is now, and it's probably only become more so, what we're going to need in the future is more creative thinkers to tackle all the problems of tomorrow. So that's what the foundation is all about. We're doing it, you know, through the education. We also are preserving Bob Moog's archives, and I know that the Les Paul Foundation does the same. They preserve Les's archives. And you know, the importance of that is not just to hold up Bob Moog as an icon. Actually, it's not for that at all. It's because history holds very, very important lessons. And the more we understand those lessons, the more productive we can be in the future. So that's right. What the foundation's doing.
Well, the Les Paul Foundation was developed right after Dad. Well, they talked about it for a while. I think they were started on this in '95. And they were talking about doing this when he passed, that we would create this. And we're doing the same thing. We're doing it to try and get as much as we can education to the schools, younger generation, to learn. And we're going to be sponsoring a lot of things coming up, and they're in the works right now, the big ones. And it's something that he would have been proud of, and that's what he wanted. All these museums that he did, that he said, I don't want to put them in the Smithsonian, I don't want to do that because they put one piece out, the rest of it goes in a warehouse.
Yep.
Now what good is it doing in a warehouse?
Yep. That's right.
Now Dad wanted his stuff to be out, and he said if it was going to be out, I wanted it to be out to be seen all the time. So we got a huge one up in Wisconsin, it was Waukesha. And there's one there, there's one up in Milwaukee at Discovery World. And there's going to be another one coming up in Mahwah. We have it in Jersey, by his hometown. And then we got another one that's going up out here in February that's going to be at the Grammys. It's going to be the Les Paul Day at the Grammys out there. So we're trying to keep the legacy going as much as we can. I have a band of my own. We're getting ready to do some stuff myself. So we're going on the road, and we're going to do a lot of big gigs in New York and everything. And we're just trying to keep everybody together. We got all the people like Slash and Ace Frehley and Satriani and all the guys and Steve Vai and all that. They all want to get together as a family, and we want to. They all have something great to say about that. So he's Jeff Beck. We'll probably be with him in February. But they're all guys that pour their heart out. They said if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. He started something with the guitar that he never thought that the guitar would really take off and be as big as it is. It got to be a big monster. We need more things to happen in foundations that will support and keep things like Bob, my dad and everything, to make sure that that's out there for the kids. Thank you very much.